This is Moore Lake. It's in Kawartha Lakes, just south of Minden, and I often kayak there in the summertime. Moore Lake has a culvert that goes into a very weedy wetland area, and it's massive actually. So I go in there with the kayak and sit and watch, and things start to happen. Herons start to fly around, muskrats start to swim around, and you get stuck in the mud sometimes.
Is there any risks that you've noticed to your lake specifically?
Definitely. So there have been some properties that have cut down some of the trees surrounding the lake, and recently, the most recent one is right near this area, in a weeded area where there's a huge habitat for fish and frogs and crustaceans and all of these aquatic plants. You can always tell the health of the lake, by how well I judge it by how well the plants are doing that I'm familiar with, the areas where they're growing. If they're not growing, then you feel like there's going to be some issue with the lake. And I think you have to have 20% of the lake not built up to ensure that it's still a healthy lake.
That's interesting. Yeah, you hear about algae blooms,
exactly,
those affecting waters. Especially if you've heard of it a lot in Kawartha Lakes. Is your painting meant to be a sort of documentation or preservation for the ecosystems that you're seeing?
I think maybe a documentation of how I'm feeling about it. So I actually had been doing a lot of monoprints with lily pads at the time, and it just sort of evolved that I was spread them out on the table, and the idea that aquatic plants provide air for the species that live there and also remove carbon, and it just looked really nice together, and that's where that idea for that piece came from.
A lot of your pieces, I think they're kind of based off of what you see and encounter. Mm-hmm. When there's industrial interventions into the scene, are those also things that you've seen with your eyes, or are they more composed pieces of your imagination?
Well, a lot of the work is from stories that I've either read about or know about personally or seen areas where I live. This particular story is about a turtle that was over 100 years old that went missing, and people later found his empty shell. So the poor animal had lost its home. The owners of the property had infilled it, and he's lost his habitat. So it's a very horrible story, and really got me, really made me feel awful, and I felt like I had to make something about this story, because people are allowed to infill their property. There's nothing to stop them, except for maybe better judgment and more concern about the environment.